I guess there's specific things like we were talking offline about monetization. That's a
Sure.
fascinating one.
Very difficult
It,
as an independent. Yeah.
and one of the things that Joe is facing with, I don't know if you're paying attention, but he joined Spotify with a $100 million deal for going exclusive on their platform. The idea of exclusivity, that one, I don't give a damn about money personally, but I'm single, so and I like living in a shitty place, so I don't. I enjoy, so I guess makes it easy.
You get the freedom, right, to not care.
It's
Yeah.
freedom. Materials is slave.
Not saving for anybody's college.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that point, but I also, okay, maybe it's romanticization, but I feel like podcasting is pirate radio. And when I first heard about Spotify partnering up with Joe, I was like, fuck the man. I said I drafted a few tweets and so on, just like attacking Spotify. Then I calmed myself down that you can't lock up this special thing we have. But then I realized that maybe that these are vehicles for just reaching more people and actually respecting podcasters more and so on. So that's what I mean by it's unclear what the journey is, because you also serve as beacon for, now there's like millions, 1 million plus podcasters. I wonder what the journey is. Do you have a sense? Are you romantic in the same kind of way in feeling that, because you have a roots in radio too? Do you feel that podcasting is pirate radio, or is the Spotify thing one possible avenue? Are you nervous about Joe as a fan, as a friend of Joe, or is this a good thing for us?
So my history of how I got involved in podcasting is interesting.
Yes.
I was in radio, and then I started a company back in the era where the .com boom was happening and everybody was being bought up, and it just seemed like a great idea, right? I did it with six other people, and the whole goal of the company was, and we had to invent the term. I'm sure everybody, I mean, there's other places that invented it at the same time, but what we were pitching to investors was something called amateur content. So this is before YouTube, before podcasting, before all this stuff. And my job was to be the evangelist. Mm-hmm. And I would go to these people and talk and sing the praises of all the ways that amateur content was going to be great. And I never got a bite. And they all told me the same thing. This isn't going to take off because anybody who's good is already going to be making money at this. And I kept saying, forget that. We're talking about scale here. If you have millions of pieces of content being made every week, a small percentage is going to be good no matter what, right? 16-year-olds will know what other 16-year-olds like. And I kept pushing this and nobody bit. But the podcast grew out of that because if you're talking about amateur content in 1999, well, then you're already you're ahead of the game in terms of not seeing where it's going to go financially, but seeing where it's going to go technologically. And so when we started the podcast in 2005, and it was the political one, not Hardcore History, which was an outgrowth of the old radio show, we didn't have any financial ideas. We were simply trying to get our handle on the technology and how you distribute it to people and all that. And it was years later that we tried to figure out, okay, how can we get enough money to just support us while we're doing this? And the cheap and the easy way was just to ask listeners to donate, like a PBS kind of model. And that was the original model. So then once we started down that, we figured out other models, there's the advertising thing, and we sell the old shows. And so all these became ways for us to support ourselves. But as podcasting matured and as more operating systems developed and phones were developed and all these kinds of things, every one of those developments, which actually made it easier for people to get the podcast, actually made it more complex to make money off of them.
Yes.
So while our audience was building, the amount of time and effort we had to put into the monetization side began to skyrocket. So to get back to your Spotify question, to use just one example, there's a lot of people who are doing similar things. in this day and age, we used to just sell MP3 files, and all you had to have was an MP3 player. It's cheap and dirty. Now, every time there's an OS upgrade, something breaks for us. So we're having, my choices are at this point to start hiring staff, more staff, people to and then be a human resources manager. The pirate radio side of this was the pirate radio side of this, because you didn't need anybody but, you and another. You could just do this lean and mean, and it's becoming hard to do it lean and mean now. So if somebody like a Spotify comes in and says, hey, we'll handle that stuff for you. In the past, I would just say, F off, we don't need you.
Yeah.
I don't mind. And I definitely am not making what we could make on this, but what we would have to do to make that is onerous to me. But it's becoming onerous to me day to day anyway. And so if somebody were to come in and say, hey, we'll pick that up for you. We will not interfere with your content at all. We won't. And in my case, you can't say we need a show a month, because that ain't happening, right? So, everybody's design is different, right? So it doesn't, there's not one size fits all. But I guess as a longtime pirate podcaster, there are, we've been looking to partner with people, but nobody's right for us to partner with. So I'm always looking for ways to take that side of it off my plate, because I'm not interested in that side. All I want to do is the shows, and it's really at this point, you shouldn't call yourself an artist, because that's something to be decided by other people. But we're trying to do art, and there's something very satisfying in that. But the part that I can't stand is the increasing amount of time the monetization question takes on us. And so there's a case to be made, I guess is what I'm saying, that if a partnership with some outside firm enhances your ability to do the art without disenhancing your ability to do the art, it's the word I'm looking for here is it's enticing.
Yes.
I don't like big companies. So I'm afraid of whatever strings might come with that.
Yes.
And if I'm Joe Rogan and I'm talking about subjects that can make public companies, a little nervous, I would certainly be careful. But at the same time, people who are not in this game don't understand the problems that literally, just all the operating systems, all the podcatchers. Every time some new podcatcher comes out, makes it easier to get the podcast. That's something we have to account for on the back end. Yeah. And I'm not exactly the technological wizard of all time. So I think it is maybe the short answer is that as the medium develops, it's becoming something that you have to consider, not because you want to sell out, but because you want to keep going. Yeah. And it's becoming harder and harder to be pirate-like in this environment.
The thing that convinced me, especially inside Spotify, is that they understand. So if you walk into this whole thing with some skepticism, as you're saying, of big companies, then it works, because Spotify understands the magic that makes podcasting, or they appear to in part. At least they understand enough to respect Joe Rogan. And despite what, I don't know if you, so there's the internet, and there's people with opinions on the internet.
Really?
Yes.
I've not heard about that.
And they have opinions about Joe and Spotify. But the reality is two things. In private conversation with Joe and in general, there's two important things. One, Spotify literally doesn't tell Joe anything. Like all the people that think that Spotify somehow pushing Joe in this direction,
it's
or that
contractual. Didn't he insist upon that?
It's in the contract, but also, companies have a way of, even with the contract,
they sure do,
to be, marketing people. Hey, I know we're not forcing you.
Yeah. I hate that. Yeah.
But Joe,
I'm with you.
You and Joe are the same, and Spotify is smart enough not to send a single email of that kind.
That's really smart.
And they leave them be. There is meetings inside Spotify that people.
I've read about those. Yeah.
People complain, but those meetings never reach Joe. That's like company stuff. And the idea that Spotify is different than pirate radio. The difficult thing about podcasting is nobody gives a damn about your podcast. You're alone in this. There's fans and stuff, but nobody's
looking out for you.
Yeah. And the nice thing about Spotify is they want Joe's podcast to succeed even more. That's what Joe talked about. That's the difference between YouTube and Spotify. Spotify wants to be the Netflix of podcasting, and they what Netflix does is they they don't want to control you in any way, but they want to create a platform where you can flourish even
Because
more.
your interests are aligned.
Interests are aligned.
So let me bring up something that let's make a distinction, because not all companies who do this are the same. And you brought up YouTube and Spotify, but to me, YouTube is at least more like Spotify than some of these smaller. The term is walled garden, right? You've heard the term
Yes.
walled garden. Okay. So I've been around podcasting so long now that I've seen rounds of consolidation over the years, and they come in waves. And then all of a sudden, so you'll get, and I'm not going to mention any names, but up until recently, the consolidation was happening with relatively small firms compared to people like Spotify. And the problem is that by deciding to consolidate your materials in a walled garden, you are walling yourself off from audience, right? So your choice is, I'm going to accept this amount of money from this company, but the loss is going to be a large chunk of my audience. And that's a catch-22, because your negotiating power with that company is based on your audience size. So if signing up with them diminishes your audience size, you lose negotiating power. But when you get to the level of a Spotify, to just pick them out, there's other players, but you brought up Spotify specifically. These are people who can potentially enhance your audience over time. And so the risk to you is lower, because if you decide in a year or two, whatever the licensing agreement's term is, that you're done with them and you want to leave, instead of how you would have been with some of these smaller walled gardens where you're walking away with a fraction of the audience you walked in with, you have the potential to walk out with whatever you got in the original deal, plus a larger audience, because their algorithms and everything are designed to push people to your content if they think you'd like. So it takes away some of the downside risk, which alleviates. And if you can write an agreement like Joe Rogan, I mean, where you've protected your freedom to put the content out the way you want. So, and if some of the downside risk is mitigated, and if you eliminate the problem of trying to monetize and stay up with the latest tech, then it might be worth it. I'm scared of things like that, but at the same time, I'm trying to not be an idiot about it.
Yes.
And I can be an idiot about it. And when you've been doing it as independently for as long as I have, the inertia of that has a force all its own. But I'm inhibited enough in what I'm trying to do on this other end that it's opened me at least to listening to people.
Yes.
But listen, at the same time, I love my audience, and it sounds like a cliche, but they're literally the reason I'm here. So I want to make sure that whatever I do, if I can, is in keeping with a relationship that I've developed with these people over 15 years. But like you said, no matter what you do, you are because see, here's the thing: if you don't sign up with one of those companies to make it easier for them to get your stuff on this hand, they might yell at you for how difficult it is because the new operating system just updated and I can't get your. So either way, you're opening yourself up to ridicule at this point. All of that makes it easier to go, well, if the right deal came along and they weren't screwing me and they weren't screwing my audience and blah, blah. Again, in this business, when you're talking about cutting edge technology that is ever changing, and as you said, 1 million podcasts and growing, I think you have to try to maintain flexibility, and especially if they can mitigate the downside risk, I think you'd be an idiot to not at least try to stay up on the current trends. And look, I'm watching Joe. I'm going, okay, let's see how it goes for Joe. You know? I mean, if he's like, this is terrible, I'm getting out of this, you go, okay, those people are out. So Joe's put himself out as a guinea pig, and the rest of us guinea pigs appreciate